Okay, what's your name?
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Chris Lambert,
All right.
retired.
What event did you live through?
The ones you listed, I was alive during Vietnam, but I didn't really live through it. I was just alive during it, and I lived through 9/11.
Okay. What was your rank and what branch did you go into?
So at the time of 9/11, I was a captain of the United States Army on active duty.
Can you tell me about things you went through while being active duty?
So I started out on active duty in 1988. I was a enlisted soldier. I was an intelligence analyst. So I was stationed in Germany. So I was served during Desert Storm. I got out and went to college and went back in. I was an air defense officer. So I went to Iraq as part of what we called Southern Watch, where we were defending Kuwait. And then later, when I got promoted to captain, I became an intelligence officer. And I was stationed in San Antonio when 9/11 actually occurred.
What did you go through while being active duty during this specific event?
So that specific day, I was getting ready to give a briefing, or I was going into a briefing, and I saw the incident happen on TV. I remember seeing the actual planes fly into the towers, and I thought to myself, some idiot just flew a plane into a building, not knowing what had happened. And I went back, and I thought it was a replay when the second plane hit the second tower.
So just these two?
And then immediately I realized it was a much bigger thing than that. And we did a lot of briefings. We closed the base down. I was living on base at the time, so the base was locked down immediately. For me, it wasn't too bad because my family was already on the base, but it became very difficult to get to work. We did a lot of calling around to find out how severe the incident was. At the time, we didn't know about the one that hit the Pentagon or the one in Pennsylvania, so it was a very traumatic day. After that, we started changing, our mission focus from what we were doing to getting ready to respond to the attack, and so it was a different time.
So during this event, what did you expect of your government?
So, being in the Army at the time, we expected information. Obviously, I was an intelligence officer at the time, so we were doing a lot of intelligence to find out not only what had happened, but how it had happened, how it got to that point, without really knowing about it ahead of time fully. And then finding a way to, how was the government going to respond? And since I was in the military, how were we, as the instrument of the government, going to respond? What we were going to have to do to try to help answer with this.
Okay.
All
What
right.
did you expect from your government after this event occurred?
Well, I guess we expected a response. I expected to be part of that response, and I was. And then to try to find ways to prevent it from happening again. Fortunately, I don't think we've had a similar type of event since that time. Now, there's been some constraints put on people's lives to get to that point where we would ensure that people, that wouldn't happen again.
How do you think the American government played a role in this event?
I don't think the American government played a role
Not
in
at all.
9/11. No.
Okay.
I think if anything, we, in hindsight, agencies could have worked better together to maybe help prevent it. As we unraveled what happened, there were bits and pieces and maybe warning signs that somebody saw that didn't make their way to the appropriate channels in time. So I think we learned we needed to work to be better, particularly across the intelligence community. But I don't buy into the idea that the U.S. government was responsible for 9/11, if that's what you're implying.
I don't know. The question wasn't really written for 9/11. It was just a general statement. So, how did this change your view on America? Basically, like with the way that America responded, if there was a different way.
So, one of the things about America that I really like is that when there is a crisis, we do very well about bonding together, and in the 5 or 6 months immediately following 9/11, you saw that across the country. Americans helping Americans try to deal with the situation. I mean, here in Missouri, I know Missouri firefighters rushed to New York to try to help with the cleanup and dealing with the event. Neighbors were bonded together. We kind of said, okay, we were all going to band together as a big family to make sure we weren't picked up from the outside. On the other side is about a year later we get back to normal business, and sometimes we took some of those ideas too far, where you started to see an increase in targeting certain ethnic minority groups that unfortunately happens with these things. So at one hand, really great, we bond together really well, and then we kind of drift apart. So it's we do great at responding to the crisis. The unfortunate fact is it usually takes a crisis for us to truly bond together.
So did this change your view on the world at all?
I think we just looked at it as the idea of a nation state attacking a nation state was really off the table, and you could now see, organization like Al Qaeda is not a nation state. What I mean by not a country, but it was an organization that could affect the geopolitical view of the world, and so it kind of changed the dynamic about how we viewed groups versus countries, and you could from the cave of Afghanistan, we could be touched here in America, and obviously due to technology that's easier to do and would have been much harder in Genghis Khan's time for him to invade or attack America. Of course, America didn't exist back then, but he would have had to walk really far, and now it's much easier. And we proved how easy it was for a group of individuals to affect the geopolitical stage at a global level.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I mean, hopefully nothing like that ever happens again. Again, ideally, it would be nice if we didn't wait for something like a crisis like that to occur before we would bond together. I will never forget 9/11, the day. Like I said, I still remember exactly where I was. I mean, that moment in time, it's a fixed moment in my memory, right up there with the birth of my children and my marriage. So hopefully you won't have to deal with a seminal moment like that. But things like that change the world. I mean, the country changed, some for the good, some for the bad. So hopefully you don't have to go through something like that.
Thank you for your time.
No problem.
We're done. Boom.
Deuces.
And that's all, folks.